Chapter 4. It was a miracle. Somehow, Sam had managed to get the babe and herself up onto the flat of the ledge. Wheezing and feeling sick, she fell over and rolled onto her back, staring up at the dark sky. Electricity sparked wildly from her injuries, and they wept bright blue liquid as they continuously pulsated with pain, reminding her that she had pushed her body to its limit, perhaps past it. That didn't matter, though. Sam's gaze fell on the tiny child near her head. They stared at her with large, innocent blue eyes. She wanted, no, needed to get them to safety, no matter what it took. This wasn't what they deserved. It just wasn't fair. Sam would be damned if she let it end this way, but her body was spent. She wanted to cry. The pressure in her chest ached fiercely, but there was no burn to her eyes that spoke of tears. Nothing. Was her humanity completely gone? What did she have left? No. There wasn't time for that. She had to focus. Sam took a deep, careful breath. "Are you okay?" The kid's voice, now that she listened to it, was soft, shy, and easily intimidated. A natural sweetheart. Yeah, I'm okay." Sam was quick to reassure them as she lay there, letting her body recover from what she had put it through. It hurt like hell, but there wasn't any reason to scare the poor dear with the truth. "I'm sorry." The whisper was near heartbreaking. No, it's not your fault." She lifted a hand tiredly, rubbing the kid's head. "None of this is your fault, okay?" A slow nod was her answer. Good. She dropped her hand back to the ground. "What's your name?" Blue Streak." Blue Streak stuttered and stumbled over his name, his head ducking down in embarrassment. How long had it been since he had last spoken? Sam could tell it had at least been a while. Either that or he was just incredibly shaken up from everything that had happened so far. She wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, or if it was both. Wait, Blue Streak was a he, right? Sam groaned and rolled over carefully, mindful of her injuries. What did it matter? Blue Streak was a kid, her kid at this point, and that was all that mattered. She grimaced, now on her stomach, and braced her knees and hands underneath her body, slowly pushing herself up into a sitting position. Blue Streak, a kind and worried child to be certain, hurried over and started trying to help her. Of course, with his small, weak, underdeveloped body, he wasn't much use, but he did his best. Sam made sure to send him a smile and a soft thank you. Sitting up wasn't that much of a change, but it was a step in the right direction. Her head tilted back to look at the rest of the journey, and she nearly wailed. Right. Now she just had to figure out how to get up about 20 feet of sleek metal with Blue Streak in tow. She could do this. She could do this. Right? Another deep, cleansing breath. It hitched in her throat painfully. What the fuck? A silver head had popped over the top of the side of the cliff, sudden and unexpected. Terror sent ice tumbling through her. They were back. Had to be. Who else could it be? Everyone else seemed dead. But this one looked different from the other three that had chased them. It was silver, for starters, and the eyes that had looked down at them were hidden by a bright purple visor. Sam and Blue Streak sat there for several minutes, frozen solid, as the robot stared back at them, seemingly equally startled by their appearance. "Hey, are you two alright?" He leaned over the edge further. "The cons are gone now. Hang on, I got some rope." And then he was gone. Cons? Sam gathered Blue Streak into her weakened arms. She had no idea what this guy was on about, but if he had a way up for herself in blue, she would take it. Honestly, it wasn't like she had any other choices, and the thought of sitting there until her body gave out and left Blue alone wasn't attractive. A line was dropped, heavy and made of woven strands of metal. The end of it made a firm thudding noise as it made contact with the ledge, telling of its strength. About 3 feet up from the end of the rope was a crudely constructed harness. It seemed their surprised visitor had given thought to Sam's condition and had tried to work around it. Grateful, she picked it up and worked it around her upper torso with some difficulty. She needed Bluestreak's help in some places, particularly along her back, where those strange appendages, wings, she guessed, stuck out awkwardly. Once Sam was secured in the harness, she gave a quick prayer that it wouldn't break and wrapped her arms around Bluestreak firmly. She then curled her body around him to the best of her ability. Sam wasn't sure how to bind him into the harness, and if it did happen to break, she would rather have the option to toss him up to the strangers rather than take him down with her. "We good?" The accented male voice filtered down to her, bouncing off the rocky walls with an echo-like effect. "Yeah!" Sam's voice cracked. She was afraid. Not that she hadn't been afraid before this, during the other situations, but she was still afraid. The fear hadn't gone away, and she had to wonder if it ever really would. Everything was so strange, like a fucked up LSD coma dream. "All right, we're gonna pull up now. Brace!" He called down to her again before pulling back. "We're?" There were more up there? Sam's pulse quickened nervously, and Bluestreak tucked tighter into her, his own fear nearly palpable. It made her chest twist painfully. No child should have to feel like this. It was wrong. She tucked her face into the top of Bluestreak's head and closed her eyes, her stomach swooping as the rope was pulled taut. Her body left the ledge, leaving her with a sense of weightlessness. Sam wasn't necessarily outright afraid of heights, but anyone would get at least a little nervous about being swung over what was certainly death by falling, right? It just made sense to be afraid of being dropped. "Hang on, we've almost got ya!" The cheerful voice was encouraging, but didn't do much to help the burn that ran through her body as she tried to stay curled in midair. Nor did it help with either of the victims' trembling terror. But the stranger spoke truthfully. Within the next few minutes, Sam and Bluestreak had been hauled up to safety. Despite only having been airborne for a handful of moments, Sam found herself endlessly grateful to be back on solid ground. She had missed it. Uncurling, Sam let Bluestreak go for a moment to rest her arms. He was shaking so badly, his armor clinked together every so often now that he wasn't being held against her. While Bluestreak took a moment to just decompress and soak up the fact that he was safe, Sam took a look at the rescuers. The silver one, he was rather short, Sam was even slightly taller than him, was setting to get her free from the rope and rolling it up. His companions were just as strange as he was. To his right stood a large, green, bulky robot, all armor and intimidation, a fighter if she ever saw one, and then to the Silverbot's left stood a slim-looking blue female robot. Well, Sam herself was a female robot, right? So it would make sense that there were others. Kinda. That begged the question, did robots have genitalia? She hadn't exactly reached down there yet. "You alright?" The blue one stepped up, her voice feminine but rough and hardened. "That was quite the fall you took, you're pretty banged up." Concern marked her features with a frown that didn't suit her beauty. "Yeah, I think so. I managed to catch us at the last second." Sam was so tired. Her voice wavered, cracking and straining at the edges. Today had, by far, been the longest day she had ever had. "Well, I'm RC. This is Jazz and Bulkhead. You and your youngling are safe now." RC lifted her head a little higher, jerking slightly, as if to gesture over her shoulder. "The rest of our team are dealing with those Decepticons. We'll make sure they won't cause you any more trouble. Or anyone. Period." Bulkhead growled, punching one fist into his other's open palm, in a clear sign of what was going to be done to them when they were caught. Thanks. Sam wasn't quite sure how to take these new robots. But at least they weren't hostile. Or corpses. She could work with that much at least. "We'd best get back to base. The big boss is going to want a status report." Jazz's accented voice was still cheerful as ever as he stood and hung the rope from his right hip. Sam wasn't sure if she found him annoying or not. Maybe it was just because she was so worn out. "She's injured. Bulkhead, carry her and the youngling." RC seemed to be the leader, with all the orders she was barking out. The other two added to this belief as they fell into line and followed everything she said to a T. Bulkhead was beyond gentle as he lifted Bluestreak into one arm and then easily tucked Sam into the crook of his other. He was a giant, especially compared to Jazz's smaller stature. From what she could tell, RC was the only one that was close to her size, if not the same height. "What's your name?" As the team turned and trotted away from the cliff, Jazz poked at Bluestreak, grinning and speaking in a light, friendly tone. Bluestreak, however, wasn't feeling confident as he fled from the silver bot. He scuttled across Bulkhead's arm and hid in Sam's chest, tucking away from them all while still being mindful of her injuries. "He's Bluestreak," Sam offered tiredly, tucking her least injured arm around the babe. "I'm Sam." Sam. Jazz tried out her name curiously and made a face. Weird designation, but alrighty, Sam. "I always did say Seekers had the weirdest names," Bulkhead declared with a chuckle. "Quiet! We're coming up on the tunnels. Silence from here on out," RC ordered abruptly with a hiss. They fell quiet, which worked just fine for Sam. She was worn. The moonlight was cut off suddenly as they disappeared underground, and the team clicked on their lights. Headlights on their chest, and their eyes glowed brightly. But it was dark even with that much, and before she knew it, Sam's eyes were getting heavier and heavier. The red warnings that hadn't stopped flashing across her vision from the start of this crazy adventure finally cut off as sleep began to creep over her. A nap couldn't hurt anything, right? Besides, if Sam could trust anyone right now, it would be these people. Right? No one else had helped them yet. As much as she hated it, Sam had been backed into a corner. So she closed her eyes and let her body shut down. Darkness filtered throughout her, and Sam drifted off to dream of her cousins and all the times they shared. Did they miss her? It was a question she couldn't possibly know the answer to. Sam's body went completely still in Bulkhead's arm besides the almost silent venting that came from her internal systems. "Danny?" Bluestreak clung just a little tighter before finally falling asleep right after her. If his newfound guardian could trust these strangers, then he could too, he decided. Besides, he was so sleepy after everything that had happened. He was honestly terrified he would go to sleep only to wake back where he started, under that desk, trapped by... No, he was safe. And despite that lingering fear, Bluestreak fell off to sleep too. "You think they're cons in disguise?" RC murmured lowly to Jazz once she was certain both of their newfound members had dropped off. "Nah, cons ain't that smart. Besides, it doesn't make any sense." The silverbot's mouth twisted downwards. "Then what? A Femma and Sparkling running around like that still alive? The chances of that are... Slim, yeah," Jazz nodded. "I know." "So what do you think, then?" Bulkhead mumbled, holding them. "I don't think they're Decepticons either. They wouldn't keep a youngling around, not willingly." "Nah, see, I think the answer's a little simpler than we think, and endlessly complex at the same time." Jazz tilted his head. "What's that supposed to mean?" RC narrowed her eyes at him. She hated it when Jazz got cryptic like this. Although, admittedly, she hated his carefree attitude even more. He never took anything seriously, it felt like. "We'll see, I guess. We all need time to figure things out."